Well, hello and welcome. Well, the Nigerian elections, any lessons learned? I'm sure there's lessons learned, but I think I think the redemption election, I may call it, because for the first time ever, an opposition party has won elections in Nigeria. Incumbent has, happily conceded and handed over, and General Buhari very soon will be the president of Nigeria. There have been so many figures and deductions from Ghana. Obviously, we have a big opposition with Nanado as the head of the opposition, obviously 72 years, saying that, well, Buhari is 72 and can win elections and lead a country, then so can we. So there's that dimension. There's also, all the other countries who are now going into an elections. What can we learn from the Nigerian story? Indeed, how bad was the incumbent for the electorates to have completely voted them out like this? Now, this is what we are here to find out while we celebrate with them to find out what lessons we can also learn. My name is Nanan Sakwao, and this is PM Express. When I come back, I have a tall list of very, very competent people to talk Nigeria. Don't move. Thank you very much for staying. Nigerian elections, the lessons learned, the atmosphere in big brother country, if I may call them. But with me in studio is Ibrahim Amaliba, who's a legal practitioner. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me. Very
good, very good. Joining us later in studio will be Ibad Ibrahim. We're still waiting on him. On the phone will be Vladimir Inchidanso. There will be Chukwu Imeke Izi, who's the director for WANIP. There's Dr. Alidu Seidu, political scientist. But now we're going straight to Nigeria to talk to Paul Turner, who is from IETV in Nigeria, to give us a feel of what's going on there. Paul, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Paul, what's the atmosphere in Nigeria now?
Oh, it is one of jubilation and excitement across the country.
Very good, very good. Paul, what I want to find out was, this is the first time an opposition party has, won in elections. What did they do differently, or what did the incumbent do so bad to derive this result?
Oh, that's a good question. First of all, I think that the electoral process has become more and more credible. That in itself is one of the reasons why we can see this major upset in favor of the opposition. The electoral system has become better and better as we approach each election cycle. We found out that 2011 was better than the previous one, and then this one is much better than the previous ones we've done in total.
Which is the electronic identification before voting?
Absolutely. It seemed that there were hitches, but overall it helped to improve the credibility of the process, because a lot of people believe that the elections was going to be credible because of the biometric system. It also galvanized a lot of voter turnout, large voter turnout, due to confidence in the system. That's one. Another one is also those who had initial plans to maybe rig elections were led to believe that it would no longer be possible with the biometric system, so they didn't put those plans in place. Although in the course of the election, the voting, they later announced that people could revert to manual voting given the glitches that they were experiencing with the biometric system. So that also could have, in one way or the other, influenced a couple of regions, but it won't be as widespread as in previous elections. And so largely the will of the people was respected.
What was the downside of Goodluck Jonathan's reign? Apart from the Boko Haram incident, were there any particular downsides of his reign?
Oh, yes. There were also many large, high-level corruption scandals. We had a situation where Nigerian government officials were caught in South Africa with over $15 million in an aircraft trying to buy arms illegally. There were the issue where the former central bank governor alleged of corruption of over $20 billion missing from oil revenue.
20 billion?
Yeah, $20 billion. Several corruption scandals here and there flying in the air. And in an age of social media, this information was readily available to the public. So I think also social media indeed has really, really helped to increase awareness of how governance is being conducted, and that has helped to galvanize a lot of people to come out for the elections and make their statements heard.
Wow, that's fantastic. The other thing is, so what is then is expected of Buhari? I mean, what's expected of his government?
First of all, corruption itself. One of the major selling points of Buhari is his high tolerance on corruption. So a lot of people believe that he's going to reduce the corruption tremendously. And people were, in a way, fed up with the corruption. That's one. Secondly, people believe that Buhari is a no-nonsense man, and so in view of the insecurity situation, he will have a better grasp of the situation and help to reduce, if not eliminate entirely, the problem of insecurity that has been so prevalent in Nigeria.
You pretty much answered my question before, but I'll ask you again. Do you think he's got the pedigree to face the challenges ahead?
Absolutely. Like I said, he has a record before. You know, he's not a neophyte in terms of governance in Nigeria. He's not coming into governance for the first time. He's ruled this country before, and we've seen him do the things we're expecting to do again. In a way, it's like Nigerians are yearning to go back to those years that he was in power. The sort of things he did, people want them to be done again. Because while he was president, he was able to prosecute a lot of people who were corrupt, who stole public money from public coffers. And also, we also had something similar to Boko Haram way back in the 80s. There was an insurgent group called the Metasine group. They also were seeking for their own caliphate. And Buhari was able to successfully deal with the situation in the past. So he has a record of doing this sort of things that people want him to come and do.
Well, I guess with his age now, he has very little to lose but get a good name. So maybe he will do even more now.
Yeah, absolutely. But before that too, if you know the man Buhari, he seemed to be incorruptible. So even when he was a younger person in governance, he was able to live a simple lifestyle of clean, incorruptible image. So he has a good reputation even while he was young. But now that he's even older, you can expect much more from him in terms of leaving a legacy.
Well, Paul, thank you very much. But, you know, I'm sure that he's going to live up to expectation, and the rest of the West Coast indeed will learn from it. Let me welcome Ibad to the show now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nana, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to sit with Mr. Amaliba.
Yeah,
I'm humbled by the opportunity.
Well, we were waiting for you.
We were waiting for
you. Let me start with you, Bram. There's a lot of expectation on this man. How do you succeed? I mean, this is 170 million people. As however good intention you are, I mean, how do you have a hold on all these people?
Let me start by saying that Buhari has 3 months alone to, as it were, have a roller coaster in the Aso Rock. After 3 months, the people of Nigeria will be expecting results. That is very clear. The people of Nigeria have a short fuse.
Wow.
And they don't have time to wait for you to do all the things, niceties, before you start tackling their problems. So it's not going to be easy for him, but they have indicated that he's done it before, and that's why they are going back to him. What is also clear is that we need to also congratulate the people of Nigeria for delivering an incident-free elections for Africa. This was not what people expected. People thought that because of the insurgencies in Boko Haram, the Niger Delta, you thought that you were going to have a situation where there will be chaos. But they were able to pull it out. There are 3 persons in this equation that I want to congratulate. Jonathan himself, for creating a level playing field for all the political parties to be able to, as it were, sell their message. This is the first time we are seeing in Nigeria where there's no intimidation from the ruling government against the opposition, where opposition party members are picked and dumped in cells. This time around, everybody had a level playing field. So he needs to also take credit. Jaga, what's his other name? Atahiro Jaga also did extremely well. You notice his demeanor when an official of a PDA went into the hall and started attacking him. He sat back, cool, took everything, but responded in like manner. So I think they've come of age. The electoral processes have also evolved in such a way as to deliver what we are having today.
Well, we congratulate them, and I'll let you.
Yeah, but I agree with Mr. Malba. Everybody on your first day at job, you are so popular. It will take time for people to make the situation sink in and give you the catalog of things they would want you to do. And David Cameron of the United Kingdom came out very popular, but now Ed Miliband is giving him a run for his money. Francois Hollande too was quite popular during the early days of his presidency. So there is a lot at stake, and I believe so well that people have reposed so much confidence in this old man. He's a good old man who wishes to leave a long-lasting legacy before he leaves the Republic of Nigeria. But my challenge with Muhammadu Buhari at Aso Rock will be how he will win himself away from the quasi-military Republican country he ruled in the 80s and our contemporary times. I know he's a level-headed man, laid back, he thinks through issues before he acts. But that notwithstanding, I believe so well that he will face a lot of challenges because the expectations are so high. And let's not be fooled. The main rebels went silent because Goodluck Jonathan was one of their stock, Nana. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if there is a resuscitation of their moribund insurgent activity. So how does the sub-region react now that our dear president doubles as chair of ECOWAS? And he's been so instrumental in getting neighboring countries to come together, coalesce into a coalition to tackle the Boko Haram menace. And the other challenge will be, when the Chadian army finally leaves Nigeria, what happens to Boko Haram? And Nana, I keep trumpeting this point, that you don't defeat an insurgency by killing all the operatives, but you defeat an insurgency when you have taken away that conducive enabling environment and that these people use to recruit young people. So Boko Haram is not an ideal wonder. Now that Boko Haram has pledged allegiance and fealty to a much broader terrorist organization called ISIS, I believe so that it's going to be a long-term security menace for the sub-region. So we wouldn't anticipate, the military kind of, the hard, response to the insurgency that this military background of this man has been so much, vaunted in that regard. So therefore, let's use the carrot and stick approach. Boko Haram needs to negotiate, but when it does, it must do so from a position of weakness and not from a position of strength. But let's not see this guy as a military messiah that is going to decimate Boko Haram and obliterate them entirely. The right counterterrorism measures have to be put in place so that Nigeria will continue to live in peace, because he can't govern an ungovernable country. I think Goodluck Jonathan wasn't so bad a leader. I think he was a victim of circumstance. So therefore, he had so many things wrong. Boko Haram gave him a lot of headache. The very territorial integrity and sovereignty of Nigeria had actually been desecrated.
Goodluck took some decisions which, personally, I find it very hard to forgive him. As a black man, I think he really ran the black race down for certain decisions he took. When those girls were adopted, and I'm talking 200 girls, that must be about 3-4 pickups or 2-3 articulator loads of girls, and then you do a lavish wedding and televise it. I really can't find anywhere within my chapters to forgive that man. I think it was just too insensitive.
Yeah, he was, and I believe so well that so many other things came together. I'm sure Mr. Malba will give more flesh to the skeleton I'm building. That number one, there was a lot of disunity within the body politicking of the PDP itself. And it's not wise, regardless of how popular an incumbent president is, to say that you will hold presidential primaries and the person will go unopposed. So therefore, I think they didn't make him go through the mill. And already there were people with intentions that were simmering under the surface. So the process was not clean. Not everybody was contented with how he was chosen again to lead the party. So therefore, there could have been, some internal acts of sabotage or lack of complete commitment to his campaign. That was number one. And number two, he had, caused a lot of resentment to Olusegun Obasanjo. And just as I indicated, it was this old man that brought him from political obscurity to political prominence. So when the Boko Haram insurgency got to a head, and he wasn't listening to Olusegun Obasanjo, the man became peeved. So at a point in time, he even shredded his PDP membership. And a leader is like a nation. He moves with the crowd. And so many people who were sympathetic to the PDP would have, you know, decided not to vote just because of Olusegun Obasanjo. And number 3, the PDP suffered some high-level defections. People crossed carpets. People like, you know, the former governor of Kano, Rabiu Kwankwaso, actually left the PDP to join the new alliance, APC. So therefore, these internal, you know, intricacies might have warranted this ignoble kind of victory we've seen. The margin is quite, you know, nauseating. You wouldn't anticipate that an incumbent president with Nigeria's checkered history of elections would lose the way this man has lost. And I told you, Nana, yesterday that the game changer would be the elections from Lagos, the Southwest. And for him to have lost so many votes in his own backyard meant that he was so unpopular. Actually, the constituency around the presidential palace, the man even lost in that as well. So I think the people wanted to bid him good riddance, and the time for him to have left was during this election. And they should wish him well and anticipate that this man will have the needed, you know, support from the rest of the country to make Nigeria that beacon of hope for us as a continent. Because currently, it's not only the most populous country, it is the most buoyant and boisterous economy.
Let me bring Abraham in here. Abraham, can the C people learn anything from the APC? You know, get all their people together and become one force rather than this fragmented? Because, I mean, the Nigeria story tells us, because they had all these fragmented parties who couldn't make, you know, inroads, and they came together, and today they've become a strong force. I mean, should they learn anything from
the CPP of Ghana?
The CPP of Ghana.
They are trying to forge. They are trying to forge a unity, but it has never been able to come to pass. Don't forget that there were 14 parties that contested this election. But the APC was an amalgamation of 11 old parties that contested in the last elections. So when you look at it, it was not as if it is one monolithic opposition party that went into the election.
No, so it makes the CPP's work easier, because at least they all have one cause, so it's easy for them to come together.
It is not as easy as that.
Well, not the CPP, Nkrumah's, I beg your pardon.
Nkrumah's party.
Let me use the Nkrumah's. I mean, all the parties who have this Nkrumah's ideology.
Yes, and it is difficult because of the kinds of things they are holding on to. CPP is a traditional party. Now, those in CPP are saying that, look, they can't see how the cockerel must go. PNC say they can also see why the coconut must go. You get the point? So you find them jostling for symbols when the real issues are there. So until they are able to shed off some of these unnecessary bickering in terms of whether it is a cockerel or it is a coconut.
What's the PPP? The PPP is, well,
they are, I think, shiny sunshine. You know, so
you should get an artist to put it together. You know, a cock jumping out of the sun into a coconut tree.
That could be a way of trying to bring them together. But in Nigeria, those political parties are not traditionally rooted. You know, they are just latter-day spring-up organizations that came together, so they could easily. But in Ghana, because of the CPP, what Nkrumah stands for and what it is, some still have nostalgic memory and are not ready to let go. So that's where.
But for how long will nostalgia make you cling to the weakest rope that snaps at all times? I believe so well that if there is any lesson to learn, then the APC has taught us. Sometimes it's good to shed off your intransigent, entrenched positions for the collective good and the cause that you are pursuing. I told you, Nana, this man is not the most charismatic the APC could have fielded. He's slow, he doesn't imbue and all that. But that notwithstanding, they felt like that aura of invincibility around him would make them win their cause. So that unity of purpose is key. Political parties are not carved in stone. So as much as possible, it's quite sad when you go to the polls, parties like CPP, PNC, and other parties that have got a long tradition in the political history of this country, they get paltry percentages. So therefore, the earlier they coalesced to become third forces, much more formidable ones. If you're even talking about latter-day political ideologies, look at the PPP. It is doing pretty much better than these with those so-called conservative principles they do not want to be weaned away from. So therefore, I think we are moving towards a certain destination, and the destination is that throughout the world, we are having two political blocs in virtually every jurisdiction. So you either join the caravan or you sink.
Let me bring Abraham in. Abraham, can Buhari, you see, normally when you believe in somebody, you just sort of rally around him and, you know, follow the leader, basically. Can he gain that, because of this level of popularity, can it be an advantage for him where people will be willing to do what he has told them to do?
As a leader, you have to go along and try to carry along the people. This is a time for him. There's this euphoria around Nigeria. In fact, today is Nigeria's second independence. Apart from their real Independence Day, today is the day that you can say is close to their Independence Day. You see the jubilation. And also because this is the first time that they are changing leadership through the ballot box. And so they hold today very dear to themselves. How would Buhari use what is happening now to his advantage? And he must position himself in such a way as to take advantage. First and foremost is to begin to do the things that the people want. For instance, fighting corruption, ensuring that...
he has to jail people.
But through the process, through the legal process, yes.
He has to pursue people.
Yes, to use the legal processes.
So you need some scapegoats.
Exactly. So you need to also understand that the people will not wait for you, because Nigeria feels that it has been let down for far too long. And so because the people will not wait for you, you don't have to engage in merrymaking as a leader. You have to hit the ground running. And so there's so much to do by Buhari. He also has to begin to put in place ministers who can respond to the call. This is a calling. In Nigeria today, what is happening is a calling. They are also of the view that they want to belong to the League of Nations that have been able to change governments. That League of Nations is proudly headed by Ghana, maybe Senegal, and Benin. They want to be part of it. And so to be part of it will mean that they would have to constantly ensure that their electoral processes are improved. So we are to see, but as I indicated, 3 months is what the Nigerians will give Buhari, and he has to start hitting the ground running.
And Nana, I agree with Amalba quite well. This is a renaissance for Nigeria, so therefore he should leverage it. And one thing he can do is to cozy up to the opposition. We aren't calling for a unity government to be formed in Nigeria, but at least you can get competent hands from the opposition to come on board, so that he will be that nationalistic figure that would mirror the sacrifices of Nnamdi Azikiwe, the first leader of the country. But if he becomes too partisan in his appointment and he sidelines certain big brains in the country, then the 3 months hiatus he will be given to make merry and start putting the structures in place will not even be enough. It will not be up before people start, reacting to him in a disproportionate way.
Let's acknowledge Dr. Vladimir Enchudansu, who's joining us on the phone now. Doctor, you're welcome. Hello, Doctor.
Hello.
Doctor, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers.
Good. I have Ibad Ibrahim here and Abraham Amaliba in studio with me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great friends.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doc.
My regards.
Thanks, Doc.
Very good. Doc, I just want to start with you. How much of international respect has Nigeria gained in this election?
Well, international respect, one way or the other, yes, the international community will be very happy that all the things that we all feared, none of them happened. Few things happened that are very, very bad. About 800 people killed, and some skirmishes. But apart from the root of lives to that tune, the normal petrol hitches were observed. So then I think the international community is going to respect us one way or the other. That the head of state also quickly acknowledged defeat, and things looked calmer than had been expected. I think it's quite a plus. But What we do with this, if we consolidate this next election and the next and the next, and we have kind of elections being a part of our normal way, right, would then be the time that the international community would say that we are there.
But Doc, I asked Abraham Maliba a question. Let me put it to you too. With regards to what APC did, where all parties came together, and I was just asking if
the line is very low.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
any better? Okay, very good. I was asking that could all the Nkrumahist parties in Ghana come together and replicate what the APC did in Nigeria to become a stronger force? I mean, can any lessons be learned from that?
Well, learning what lesson? One way is it just because we want to come together and just capture power? I am yet to see what all the other 14 parties and the coalition that has been formed and Buhari's leadership would bring on board, whether it is not for coming together for the sake of capturing elections and sharing the lagis of elections by just struggling for positions within the party, and then by the next they fizzle out, or whether it's going to be a formidable one united party in the future. So yes, we can learn a lesson from that and say that, hey, look, all Nkrumah's parties, let's come together and learn a lesson from this, because we can form a real third force and things like that. But after capturing power, the most important thing is to create a philosophy for that particular party. Other than that, it is a kind of one-chini, kind of football. I don't subscribe to that.
Okay. But, I mean, going forward, what should Nigeria do now? I mean, what advantage should they take, from going forward from here?
Well, I think the first thing is that there's the need for the consolidation of democracy in Nigeria. Up till now, I don't think that we have seen the kind of attempt at consolidating democracy. And I have always said that three factors are very debilitating to African politics, and in Nigeria it plays very well. Number one is tribalism, number two is religion, and number three is money. Can we make these things a thing of the past and create a real platform for democracy, a culture of democracy that knows no tribe, no religion, no money, so that the real people are put in power, and then the real people also give us that kind of leadership that will emancipate from the doldrums of poverty and squalor that we see around Africa. So my biggest problem for Nigeria now is how do you steer away from all the rot that has created a kind of a corrupt society, a kind of poor society in the midst of plenty. So the consolidation of democracy, killing corruption away from Nigeria and putting Nigeria on a real trail for economic development, for Nigeria to play its meaningful role on the subcontinent and in Africa generally.
Doc, my last question before I let you go is, I think within the countries that have done the elections, we have the concept of queuing up to thumbprint, we have perfected it. But that seems to be the only aspect of democracy which we seem to have gotten right. All the other bits, the accountability part, the questioning of leaders and all that stuff, we can't seem to get there. We just seem to be perfecting the queuing up and thumbprinting.
I think I seem to agree with you 100%. And if you watch some of my exposés, I have always been the side of the consolidation of democracy, and that I have always said that that democracies cannot and should not be measured in terms of the ballot box, and that constitutionalism and institutionalism, if you get the majority of the population or the people in the country understanding democracy through constitutionalism, and then when you have institutions of state as the beacons, as the platform on which democracy is built, then you are gradually getting to a situation where tribe, money, and those things don't matter. But I agree with you, if we are unable to consolidate democracy in the sense of the basic tenets of democracy, then the ballot box and then the fanfare around winning elections mean nothing. And as I said, if Buhari is only going to continue from where Jonathan left in terms of who is best in non-accountability, who is best in corruption, then we have done nothing. There's nothing to say hooray about.
Thank you very much for sharing some insight with that, Doctor.
You're very welcome.
But let me start with you, Ibad. Ibad, even though I blame us for just queuing up and voting, I think this time, if we look at the trend in Nigeria, not only did they just queue up and voted, but there were certain areas where certain amount of votes were not expected, but they did vote. So maybe this time they looked at some issues or went to the core of things.
I don't know whether you could judge them as issues-based kind of, turnouts. But I think people had had enough of Goodluck Jonathan. They needed change. And since 1999, when Nigeria truly became a multi-party democracy, the PDP has lauded itself over the people. Olusegun Obasanjo came, Omar Yar'Adua, who died quite prematurely, then Goodluck Jonathan. So people actually braved the storm to come out in their numbers to vote, not because of political expediency or becoming much more aware about the process, largely because of the myriad problems the Goodluck Jonathan regime was not able to solve. And the regime appeared quite helpless in the face of such challenges. It wasn't like there was any light at the end of the tunnel. And when you listen to many of the, sampled interviews we had, some of them said they couldn't even afford 1 square meal a day. So therefore, an impression has been created that it is government that needs to put pockets in the ordinary man's pocket. Apart from the fact that we go voting, that is a parochial understanding of democracy. Apart from that, you think Aban has to resolve all of your problems, when in fact, Aban should not be doling out money, but Aban should create that enabling environment so that our educated youth who are coming from the universities will be able to start up businesses. So therefore, we should shift away from thinking of our politicians as messiahs that should solve all of our economic, problems. So therefore, that also feeds into the corruption you were talking about, that for as long as we vote you MP of a constituency, even when my wife is delivered of a baby, you have to pay for the outdooring, because those are the promises you've made me. But elsewhere, you don't make such promises. You look at the macro issues that will resolve the problems of the whole of the society as a collective unit, rather than looking at individuals. That is why, Nana, our democracy seems to be a vicious cycle of retrogression. And it doesn't matter who is in power, whether APC or PDP or NDC or NPP. We seem to be moving, but we are stationary. So therefore, let's shift away. We need a complete overhaul of our understanding of democracy. And I agree with people like you, Nana, that we should customize democracy so that it will suit our own African values and propel us to that national development.
I'm going to take a break, and when I'm coming, I'm going straight to Abraham Maliba, because I had Nana Okumia on Asempa today saying that, well, General, is 72, Nanado is going to be 72, so clearly you could choose an elderly man and to lead a country, and change will happen. We hear his take. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. We are looking at Nigeria's elections, congratulating them and seeing what lessons we can learn from it. With me in the studio, right next to me is Ibad Ibrahim, international news analyst, and then my brother, legal practitioner, Abraham Maliba. And just before the break, I was going to ask you that, well, Nigeria now has set the pace with a 72-year-old president. Is it time for Ghana to do same? Because, everybody said, oh, no, the NPP is fielding an old man and, he can't do the job. Abraham, what's the news for the NPP? Should they be jubilating that, well, age isn't it much of a factor? I mean, Nigeria has got 170 million people. We only, probably just one state. So, should they...
No, let me say that the circumstances are not the same. Because what happens in Nigeria is dictated by the circumstances there. Ghana's circumstances are different. Indeed, if what happens in other countries could have influenced neighboring countries, I think the closest is Ivory Coast, where we had a change of government, but that did not lead to a change of government here. When Ouattara took over from Gbagbo, it did not cause a change of government close next door. So it is the specific and peculiar situation. Now see, Nigerians were grappling with 200 or more than 200 adopted girls. And that went to the heart of the people, the parents.
Even me.
Even you. So, and you had a government that was not responding to the needs of the people. That alone is enough to put voters, away from such a ruling government. We are not having that situation here. And so I am of the view that that comparison will not work. It is important for the MPP to, as it were, go to the grassroots and propagate their message, rather than relying on what is happening in Nigeria. Else they will be taken by events. I think that when you look at Nigeria, we have indicated that the forces that came together to defeat Jonathan, MPP is not that type of force. Because MPP is just a party. MPP is not a coalition of all the political parties coming together. So that is one which is different from the Ghana situation. But
MPP as a party is a formidable force. They probably don't need, all. I'm not saying everybody needs her, but I mean they're a formidable force enough. They do not need all these coalition to win. It's not like there's a small party who needs another small party.
Yes, but I'm drawing the distinctions and trying to tell you that the circumstances are different.
I mean, basically,
it is not for them to just. It's too simplistic to just say that what has happened in Nigeria, some will happen here. That's what I disagree.
But what I'm saying is that now, for this particular elections, I think Ghana has followed this election very, very keenly. Than previous ones. Previous ones you hear, but this one on a day-to-day, even state by state, counting, we have followed it. So the average voter now knows that, they are electing a 72-year-old president. He can do the job there. So then I take up my doubt that, well, if we elect one here, he can do the job. Because the whole thing is that he can't do the job because he's too old.
Who is this 72-year-old person? Is somebody who has a track record of having been president before. You had your interview. The man said that there was something to talk about Buhari. He's done it before. They are now yearning for that same leader because they feel that the circumstances call for that type of leadership. But we don't have that in our opposition leader who was once able to rule this country in a certain way, and we are calling. So let's not compare at all. I think that it's not.
But that is also not to discredit the credentials of the leader of the opposition party. Serving as Foreign Affairs Minister, AG also has a clean sheet in terms of incorruptibility and all that. In any case, Mr. Amalba, I believe so well that this should send shivers down the spines of every incumbent government, not only in Ghana. And just as I indicated, Togo goes to the polls in April, and La Côte d'Ivoire does so in October, and then Burkina Faso goes to the polls in November. So I think the domino effects, and Nigeria is a big brother to all of us. So therefore, people are keenly watching what is happening over there. And this propaganda, if it is latched upon by the MPP, will wash with certain people. That wisdom is in the minds of those who have longevity, that Nigeria has had to do a U-turn. After giving a 57-year-old the opportunity, they would want to give someone who has much more experience in life and all that. So therefore, I think with the effective communication machinery there is within the ruling party, they will be able to counter this. But the permutations are entirely different. If people vote Nana Addo in this country, then it will be based upon the campaign message and the soundness of Nana Addo's manifesto. And if His Excellency Dramani Mahama is maintained, it will be based upon his own works, the projects he brings to bring relief to the people of this country. And so therefore, let's mark time to 2016, and I believe so well that such inferences that are being drawn will make the competition much keener and much interesting.
But Nana, you see, what is happening in Nigeria today, we did it in 2000, where Kufuor took over from Rawlings, and there was so much jubilation because that was the first time the opposition party too was taken over from a ruling government. So, in fact, we are trailblazers, and they have learning from us. So the circumstances, again, are not the same.
So we've enjoyed. But Chukwu Emeka has now joined as Executive Director of OneNeb. Hello, my brother, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I will appreciate if you could be a bit audible.
Okay, yeah. Okay, is it any better?
Yes, a little bit better.
Oh, very good. I think my sound man should check my mic. Anyway, let me say congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And we already spoke to Paul Turner, and he says the atmosphere in Nigeria is, the euphoria. And why not? I think you guys have proven the world that, if given the chance, the African can do it. But I just want to find out, the expectation now seems to be very, very high. Has Buhari got the pedigree? And let me ask that question again. See what your position is.
Well, I think if you followed his campaign and the manifestos he was reeling out, you will appreciate that he seems to understand, first of all, the major issues confronting the country at the moment, as well as how to go about it. So I think he's very calculative, he's very calm, he has the mien to rule the country at this moment. And if I should quote one of my friends, he is very presidential.
He's very
presidential.
He's very presidential.
Oh, okay. In his demeanor.
He's ready for the job ahead.
Okay, his demeanor. Well, the people, you see, it's all based on the support you get from people as they will galvanize and follow you. You think this euphoria will last, or my brother Ameliba in the studio is saying Nigerians will give him 3 months and they'll start saying, listen, I'm still broke. You know, you've been president for 3 months and I don't have a job. You think they'll give him more time than that?
Well, I think Nigerians are generally very patient people, which is why sometimes they will tell you that 4 years is not forever. But I'm sure that even the president-elect himself will also be mindful of the fact that Nigerians have suffered from years of leadership deficits and lack of dividends of democracy. So expectations are very high, and how transparent he is, even if he's not able to meet those expectations, but with regular communication to the citizenry, I think he should be able to pull through. The good thing is that he's coming on a very huge goodwill from the people. And having contested this election for 3 times, and then he's making it at the 4th time, there is even a lot of sympathy and empathy as well, and a lot of goodwill as he goes to take on this very difficult task at a very complex and critical moment in the history of the country.
You think he's going to do the brave thing and say, look, I'm going to do just 1 term and I'm giving all my best for this 1 term, because after that I'll be 76, 77 and I'll go home and retire. So I'm doing all my all to make a change? Or he's going to say, look, I'm taking my two terms?
I think it's too early to predict what he will do. If, for example, as he's riding on the goodwill of the people, and there is such enormous agreement that he has done well in the first 4 years, even if his opinion is to go home and rest, it might also not be possible, because there will be pressure on him to continue, one. And secondly, if it is going to affect the chances of his party also consolidating power as a new party in power, then such permutations may not even allow him and his personal opinion to ride. But knowing his discipline, it might also be an option. But I think it's too early to predict whether he wants to do just 1 term or 2 terms.
Shugo, not just Nigeria alone, but across the whole of Africa. I mean, corruption has now almost become probably our second tradition or our second culture. You have 170 million people, 36 states. There's this guy sat in Abuja. How is he going to hold people together or put his foot down to make sure that the guy in Borno State, doesn't do something he's not supposed to do?
I think there's an African adage that says that the fish starts getting rotten from the head. And I think if you know the antecedents of the general, you will know that he has always had his stand when it comes to issues of corruption. And he has maintained that over a long period of time. Everybody that knows him, even his adversaries, know that this is where he stands in terms of corruption. So if he can take that stand, it means that he will be able to also show the way for a lot of his followers not to go in the direction of corruption. He has shown example of that when he was president for 24 months through the war against indiscipline. So yes, this is the time for democracy and rule of law must endure, but his personal dominion is very important in the fight for corruption in Nigeria at this moment.
But what is going to be his biggest challenge as he takes up the office?
I think security is there, the issues of the insurgency, how he deals with it and deal with it once and for all, so that he can also save a lot of costs and then use what he's saving to be able to respond to the infrastructural deficit the country is facing at the moment. Is very, very key and is a priority in my opinion. The second thing is how he's able to reunite the country and now regain the trust that the people were seeming to be losing in the act of governance. That's also another key area. But of course, beyond that is how he ensures that he has the right team to work with him at this very critical moment.
I mean, Nigeria has always got ethnicity and religion problem. I mean, do you think there's anything he can do to cushion it a bit? Maybe not eliminate it, but cushion it a bit. What can he do?
No. The country has moved on. I think even if you look at the voting pattern, it was not alongside even religion. It was cutting across both Christian and Muslims. And then the rule of law in Nigeria have come to stay. The legislatures is no longer that period that the legislators are weak. They have been the most consistent in the last 16 years in terms of taking up the duty of being the watchword and also being the balancer as it relates to the executive excesses. So I think the country's democracy is beginning to take root, and I don't think any single individual will push the country into any form of religious lack of freedom.
Chukwu, thank you very much for that insight. Let me come.
I disagree with Chukwu on one point. And Ibad pointed out that religion, ethnicity is a problem. He cannot use what has happened in these current elections to say that there aren't those problems. Because in this current election, the ruling government did not go into the elections as a strong, united body. There were defections, massive defections. You had somebody like Obasanjo cheering his. So the Yoruba vote did not go to the ruling party. So the voting in Nigeria defied religious, ethnic backgrounds because of the problems inherent in the ruling party. But they are much still alive.
So I think they are deep-seated. They are deep-seated problems. Look at how small Ghana is, Nana. A population of some 25 or 26. That within the MPP, Achim, Asante, within the NDC, and the Dagbondes, and all that. So it's a part of us. And where you are born is where you would also
is it brewed out of poverty? Do you think it's poverty?
No. White people themselves had to go through this evolution. At the point in time, if you didn't belong to a certain clan, you had to be exterminated. But I don't know whether we should have this bottom down or top down, top up or bottom down.
When you have money, you don't care who the next tribe is. Or if you
it's very. Nana, some of you who have had the opportunity to stay out of the jurisdiction for quite some time, you had your own brush with the first world. It does happen. Something as mundane as getting a job. Nana, when you go for a job interview, most of the time, the first question they ask you is, what offering? That, fundamentally, young people like us who are now starting up life, we are meeting all these. You want to rent an apartment, are you a northerner? Your name even gives you away and all that. So it's inherent, it's a part of our culture as Africans that we identify with our origin. But that notwithstanding, I believe so well that I don't need to be an Achim or a Dagbon to be able to push the national development agenda of my country forward. That is the kind of awareness I believe we can create. And Muhammad Buhari has that Herculean task to carry out. And he should pursue it to the hilt.
But I think apparently he's a Muslim who always attends church events. So he's kind of seen across board. His vice is apparently a pastor, and a very good pastor as well. So I think he's got that liberalism and that blend which people may look at.
It won't last for too long. And they'll have the good laugh now. And I believe Ms. Almaba will come in. You should understand the intricacies of northern Nigerians. In Ghana, you can put on this and lead prayers. But in northern Nigeria, you have to put on the gown and then put on the hat, or else you aren't seen as a complete imam. So the way we are liberal, northern Nigerians aren't like that. Look at how our women even dress, Muslim women in Ghana. In Nigeria, the rules are much more puritanical and draconian than they are in other jurisdictions. So going into the church may be okay for now as we are making merry. But over time, the clerics in the north would want him to sit down and avoid certain things like that. And that is when the division will come, quite unfortunately.
Yeah, but for now, he's been able to transcend the religious boundaries. So he's been able to bring people together. And then, as it were, and again, because he comes from the north, there's this perception that he can deal with the Boko Haram menace because he knows them. That's the perception. He will know them, and so he can deal with them headlong. This is another reason why I think that probably they voted for him. So a lot of things are going in for him. It is for him to just be able to position himself and then take advantage of the process. But I think that he will have a healing tax to climb, because it is in Nigeria and not any other country. And in Nigeria, the expectations are very high.
And he's becoming a leader of a fragmented society, quite unfortunately.
Let me stay with you. So do you reckon the issue based within this election is not as much as the disagreement within the parties? Or do you think Nigeria stand around and say, no, let's look at the issues and vote issues?
Issues were part of it. The issue of security, the inability of the government to provide security is an issue. And they voted along those lines.
Okay.
You just had some interview with a newspaper reporter who talked about how money was put on the flight and sent out for corrupt practices. That is also an issue. So it is issue-based. However, there are some other factors that find a way into determining why he was voted out. Some of it is the internal wranglings within the party. So issue-based, I think that the Nigerians voted for two main reasons. Issue-based and the fact that they also needed to have a change for once. For the past 16 years, they have been in bed with one political party.
Yeah, exactly. And then I believe, in wrapping up, Nana, I believe so well that he should get his priorities right. First of all, he should keep the glue that has brought together the various fragments that have formed this alliance. And the appointments should be regionally proportionate, and they should represent everybody. Because if he has a united house, I believe so that he will come out with a robust team, and that will take Nigeria to the promised land.
Girls, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It has been quite an interesting, but we say big congratulations to Nigeria for leading the way. And just as he has started good, we pray that it continues. And I hope that this leader sets that example which all leaders want to copy, because in the end we shall all benefit. But as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thank you very much for watching. And guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.